Hey, how's it going? And today I'm just going to show you how to create a basic menu system for a game that you might want to do. And so to start this, we're in Unreal Engine 5, and I'm just going to go launch the engine. And it loads up here real fast. And then we're just going to go to Games, and we're going to go to a Blueprint project, no starter content, and we're just going to call this UI 19, and we'll go create. And it just takes a minute to load up. This isn't terribly difficult to do, but there are like an order of operations you kind of got to follow. So right now we're in a blank project, and if I hit play, you'll see that it's fully functioning. And then I can just hit escape to get out of the game. Now the level's not saved. You'll notice it says Untitled here. So let's just go ahead and save our current level. And I'm just going to call this level 1. And just pay attention to how you name that. You can create folders and files to better organize things, but just for time, I'm just going to put everything here, leave everything out kind of here. But normally I would put things into folders. Now we've saved our level, and this is technically our game level. One thing first is I'm going to create the user interface. So I'm going to right click and go to Widget Blueprint, and this is User Widget. And I'm just going to call this Display UI. I try to call things what they are, so when I see the name, I know what it is. So this needs to be created first, things first. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click, and I'm going to go create a new level here. And this is going to be, I'm going to call this my menu level. So we'll have two levels in this game. One is a menu level, and then one is the game level, which is just one level right now. So I'm just going to go click here and save all right now. And the first thing I'm going to do before I do anything is I'm going to go to Edit, Project Settings, and I'm going to go to Maps and Modes. And here it has Editor Startup Map and Game Default Map. And I'm just going to set these both to our menu level, just like that. And there's nothing to save here. When the game starts, I always want it to be on here, on the menu level. So I'm just going to close that, and we don't need to do anything more with that. Now, once I'm on the menu level, I'll click on that. I'm going to go into the Open Level Blueprint. And this is what's basically, we only have to code some logic in here. While I'm in here, I'm just going to go ahead and dock this up here, so that when the game starts, the first thing we're going to do is bring in our user interface that we just created. So now I'm going to go create widget. I don't know why they don't call it create user interface, but anyway, create display UI, and that's the display we just created. And then from here, we just need to make it appear on the viewport. So we've got to go add to viewport. Just like in programming, you have to tell the computer exactly what to do every step along the way. And now we want to I can right click here. Well, one thing I can do is right here, I can just do set input to mode only. And I'm going to show you something a little bit later about this where I got into an issue, and I'll show you how I resolved it. I'm going to right click and get the player controller. It's right here. And then we're going to plug this into player controller. And then from here, we're going to drag out set show mouse cursor. We're going to turn that on. And then we're going to continue on with our game flow right there by plugging that in. And so that's all the logic that we need for this blueprint level, and we don't need to mess around with this anymore. So as soon as the game starts, it's going to display the widget. We created our interface. It's going to set the input to UI interface only, and we'll be able to see our mouse. And then I hit compile and save. And then I can close out of this. That I'm done with that. Where all our work's going to take place now is just in the display UI right here. So this is where all our work's going to take place now. So I double click this, and I'm going to go ahead and dock it, because that's where all our work's going to take place. And the main thing to know about this is there's two levels to this. There's the graph, where we program in our logic, and the designer, which is basically how we want it to appear. And of course, there's a lot of things you can do to make it look very professional. We won't be getting into all that today. Today, we're just creating the basic functionality. So to start, the first thing we're going to do is call up what's called a canvas. We're going to click here, and we're just going to drag it onto the scene. And if you click down here, you see you can resize it to different sizes. We're going to leave ours at 1280 by 720. For clarity, we can just call this base panel like that. And then what we're going to do is we're going to create what's called the Widget Switcher. And this is going to allow us to actually provide the functionality we need to switch between the interface, the pages of the interface. And so we're going to click this and just drag it down here on top of the base panel because we want it to be a child of the base panel. Now we're going to create our user interface pages. So we're going to use canvases for that. So we'll go to canvas again, and I'm going to drag down one panel and put it on Widget Switcher. One thing I should mention is here on the Widget Switcher, I can drag this out here to create the kind of the play area, and then for the anchor I can set it here to pin it. But you'll notice when I do that there's some slight offset here, so what we're just going to do is zero that out, and you'll see so that everything is lined up perfectly. And that's for our Widget Switcher, because this becomes basically, this is the parent that'll be governing the two canvases that we are going to put on it right now. So Widget Switcher, zero out your offsets, and then hit your anchor here, and then drag it out, the green, so it fills up the whole screen. Okay, so now on Canvas panel, we're going to drag this down to the Widget Switcher, and then we're going to drag another one down, right on top of the Widget Switcher. Whoops, see, that one didn't go right. Yeah, so then we want these two panels to be indented under Widget Switcher, which means they're children of this. So that's what we want. The first panel, we're going to click it, and we're going to call this menu page 0. And then here, we're going to click on this, and we're going to call this help page 2. Okay. And then once we're done with that, we have our two pages. There are children under this, and this is a child under the base panel. Then what we're going to do is we're going to bring in some buttons, and we're going to have 4 buttons. So I'm going to go button. Eventually we'll have 4 buttons. So I'm going to place that on here, page 1. And then I want some text, so I'm going to go text, and then I'm going to drag that on top of the button. So then your functionality should look like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to create one button, format it just the way we want it, and then we're going to go ahead and copy that button, and then all we have to do is change the text on it. On this one, we're going to call this is going to be our play button, so we're going to call it play button, and again, call it what it is so you know what it is when you're looking at it. What we can do here is we can go to the anchor, and we want to center this in the middle of the page, so we're going to click it right there. And just for clarity's sake, I'm going to click on the text button right now, and I'm just going to type in play. Okay, so now I'm going to switch back to the button and format this. Now you notice when I set the anchor in the middle, the button's way up here, and that's because it's offset up here. So we want to zero this out, so this will center it. So now the button's centered. We want the text to match the size, so we'll just click size to content. And now our alignments, even though we're in the center, we're off a little bit. So we got to offset it here a little bit, and we type in 0.5 and 0.5. And now you notice the button is perfectly centered in the center of the screen. So you zero out those, and you put 0.5, 0.5 under alignment. Now under style, this is just my preference, and you can figure out what you want to do. If we come here down here to style, we'll see that the button is now gray. I can compile and save this while I'm just at it. So these are the only 2 settings I'm going to adjust on, and there's millions of options here. But what I want is I don't like this gray. So like if I hit play, we should be able to see this. Wait, I go into main level and I hit play. Oops. Hold on. I got an error. Now why did I get an error? Let me go into your level blueprint and see what's going on here. Oh, I didn't hook up this return value. Okay, so I'll compile and save that. Sorry about that. So if I go into the menu and hit play, you'll see our button right here. Right? I don't want it to appear like that. So I'm going to come back in here. Let me kill simulating. And we'll come in down to, where are we at? On the tint. And here is our RGB, and then our alpha. We're going to go ahead and set that to 0. So I want it to be completely transparent. And then on the hovered, if we come down here to hovered, how the button's going to appear when our mouse is hovering over it, I can come down here. And this is just a preference on my part. I'm just going to drop it down to 0.25. And that's all I'm going to do as far as stylizing these buttons. And you can come in and play around with these. It's pretty intuitive, this part. So now if I go to compile and save and go into menu and hit play, you'll see there's my play button. And see when I take the mouse over it. It's just, to me, it's more of a minimalistic look that I personally prefer. So now we basically have our button formatted now. And so all we can do is I can close this up, and I can right click and go copy. Now on this menu page right here on the left side, I'm going to go paste and click it again on the menu page and paste again. And then down here on the help page, I'm going to click again and go paste. So now all I have to do now is just change the text on these buttons. So I'm going to click on here. I'll open that up. Play button 1 is going to be my help page, and then I'll change the name of the button to match. So I'm going to call it help. And then down here on this button, I'm going to change this to quit the game. And then down here, open it up. I have to open it, click on the button here. This is the best way to navigate actually over here. And then I'll change this to quit. So that'll be our quit button. And then here on the last button, this is going to be return. I actually should have said return button. Return button. And then here, actually for these buttons, I want to change this to, so I just know what it is. I broke my own little rule there, just so I know what it is. Quit button. And then down here, I just have to put return, type in return. So the good thing about this is once you format one button, you just copy and paste those buttons wherever you want them. So it goes pretty quick. So now we basically have all our buttons set up. Now I just need to orient them. This button here, I don't want it in the center of the screen. So all I have to do is make sure I'm on the button and come here to anchor. And then I want it in the lower right corner. But you'll notice when I set the anchor, the button doesn't go with it, and that's again because it's offset. So we just have to zero these out. And now what I can do is just click and drag this button in a position where I want it along the X and Y position. So there's that button. Now on the help page, oops, come back to the help page. So I have a return button here. What I want is, of course, you want help on the help page. So what you do is you just break text down here and put it on the help page. And now we have some text. And what we can do on this, center this one. So I'll make sure I'm on the text block here. I'm going to center it in the middle of the page. And again, it's offset. So I'll just go 0, tab 0. And then I can put this one to fit to size. And I can just say online chat. I'm trying to make it realistic. Not available. Please call back between 8 and 5 Pacific Standard Time. Okay. And now you'll notice that it's off-centered. So we can just, how did I do that before? Let's see. I think I have it centered. Here on the alignment, I can just drag it to one side. Whoops. Just to center it like that. Because this button here, it's white. To me, to make this stand out a little bit better, you can just change the color on your text and go, okay. There we go. So if I go back to the help page, you can see I have my message and then I have my return button. So all we're doing here is just formatting the page. And like I said, I think this part's pretty formative, pretty intuitive. So now if I click on so I've got a play button here and a help button and a quit button. And as you can see, they're all mashed on top of each other. So if I go on the help button here, on the Y position, if I just type in 50, it's going to drop it down. And then if I click on the quit button, I can just type 100, and this way the buttons are then uniformly spaced apart. So this basically concludes formatting our page. So this is our main menu page. Like you could drag in text here and say menu and all this other stuff. And then on the help page, of course, you could put help page and bring in more titles and text and play around with it all day. So this is just like it says up here, the designer. So all we have to do now is just add functionality to our buttons. And hopefully that won't take very long. And then here I'll show you one of the issues that I got into as far as, of course, are going to be triggered by buttons, button actions. So if I click on play button here, I'm going to come down and go to on clicked. And it's going to pop me into the graph side of the program where I can add the functionality. Now here's the one that I ran into some problems. So if I click and drag out of here, I want to look for set input to game mode and UI. If you just set this to UI, when I had this just set to UI, when I went into my game level, it wouldn't work. So what this does is if UI input isn't working, then it'll go back to the game mode. And I believe that's what you have to do to get it to work. At least that's how I got it to work. And now all we want to do is we want to set this to open our level. So we go open And we can open by object reference and just down here select our asset, and our asset is going to be level 1. And then we're going to right click and we're going to get our player controller right here, and we're going to drag this into player controller. That's all we have to do. This button has the most involved with it. So then we just go compile and save. Now we're going to jump back into our designer class. Now these two buttons, the help button and the return button, have both a lot in common because they're basically just switching our pages from one page to another. So what we can do is on the help button, we can click on clicked, and it's going to pop us in here, but we're going to go back to the designer and we're going to click on the return button, come down here and go on clicked. Then what we can do is we're going to drag out our widget switcher, which is right here, get widget switcher, and if we drag out here, we can set active widget index, and this basically allows us to switch between our pages, and we need 2 of these, so I'll drag out another one, set active widget index here. So now we have these 2 of these, and this can be a bit confusing, but basically our home page, if I'm over here, our menu page has an array value of 0, and our help page has an array value of 1. So basically we want the help page. So I'm going to drag this in here, and I'm going to drag this in here. And basically when I click this button, I want to go to this index page of 1. So I want to go to 1. And on this, I want to go back to the 0 page. So basically, actually, I don't know why I put a 2 there, but it really should be more of a 1. This has an array value. This menu page with these 3 buttons on it has a value of 0. And this help page has a value of 1 on the index. So basically what I'm saying here is I want this to go to page 1. And by putting 0, I'm basically saying I want you to go back to the 0 page. So it could be a little confusing, but just know that the computer counts from 0, 1, 2, 3. 0 is 1, and so it's kind of confusing. But basically it's just to switch our pages. And so we're done with that one. And then the last button is actually the easiest one, which is the quit button. And so we'll come down here and we'll go on clicked, and we just drag off, and we just want to quit the game. So quit game. And that's all we got to do for that one. And I can go compile and save, and then I can go save all, and now I should be able to, if I play the game, I hit play, there's my menu right there. Now if I did this right, if we did everything right, if I hit play, it should jump into our world, and I should be able to fly around in there, right? Okay, so I can stop it, and then when I stop the game, I go back, and then I hit play. It starts with the menu, and let's say I'm on the menu and I want help. I don't know what the hell's going on with this game. Help. Oh, online chat not available. Please call back. Oh, return. And then the last button, of course, is quit. And I'm out of the game. And that's it. You might have to practice this a few times just to get familiar with it, but once you get it down, I think the main thing is actually getting good with using the display and creating a professional looking display, and you can bring in images and things like that. So anyway, I hope you found this helpful. Take care. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you next time.